Hi everybody, and welcome to the final week of PHI 208. This week you're going to be reading Chapter 5 from the textbook and engaging some multimedia and some other stuff, and writing your final argumentative paper. The first thing I'd like to talk about is the discussions for the week and the topics of those discussions. So in relation to those discussions, you're going to be talking about the meaning of life and philosophy and society and the relationship between philosophy and other fields. There's a vast literature that relates philosophy to human meaning and ideas about how humans attempt to carve out meaning in the world. And those responses range all across the board from, atheistic responses that attempt to carve out human meaning without having some sort of creator that supplies those meanings. There are religious responses or theistic responses that find all the human meaning coming from a creator or from God or from gods. And then there are other religious responses that find that God kind of sets everything up, but that humans themselves have to create meaning within the framework that God has created, and all of these things. And you don't really have the opportunity this week to analyze the literature on these topics that often students find very interesting. But just one story I wanted to share with you is Camus' myth of Sisyphus and his explanation of the myth of Sisyphus and how it relates to life. And so Camus takes this myth where Sisyphus is this kind of tragic hero in ancient Greek mythology, and there are different stories. For example, one says that Sisyphus locked Hades in chains, so therefore humans didn't die because Hades wasn't taking them down into the underworld. So kind of he released humans from death. Others say that he gave, I believe, fire to humans or water to humans to help them survive these other things in defiance of the gods. But in any sense, or in any case, Sisyphus is basically condemned to the underworld, and he's condemned to a specific punishment. And his punishment is to roll a boulder up an inclined plane, or up a mountain, basically, for eternity. And depending on the myth, again, it goes something like this. Sisyphus either pushes the boulder and he's almost to the top to get the rock to the top, and then he loses the last bit of strength that he has from this toil, and the rock comes crashing down, and then he has to climb down the mountain to again attempt to push the rock over the mountain. In another version, Sisyphus pushes the rock all the way up to the top of the mountain, only to find that the boulder continues to roll, and it rolls down the other side of the mountain, and then he pushes it back, and the boulder rolls down and back and forth for all of eternity. And Camus relates this to the human condition in a piece that he wrote. Camus, again, working from more of an atheistic existential framework, attempting to think about what does a life like Sisyphus's, does it have meaning, and where is the meaning within that life? And so Camus relates it back to human existence. And the beginning of that essay says, the only truly philosophical question is suicide. Why don't you kill yourself? Why do you believe that your life has meaning? And does it have meaning? And let's think about Sisyphus as the ultimate example of what we do. And so Camus says things in the essay like, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, wake up, get on the train, go to work. Eat food at work. Come home, on the train. Sit at home, eat dinner. Have a little free time, go to bed. Monday, Tuesday, wake up, get on the train, go to work. Eat at work, come home after work, on the train, eat dinner, hang out for a little bit, go to bed. Tuesday, Wednesday, wake up, get on the train, go to work. And he says, at some moment in everybody's life, there comes a time when they think, why? why am I doing this? Why am I engaging in this repetitious behavior? And society itself, and in many existential thinkers' thought, society is the great kind of average maker. So society keeps us saying things like, oh, well, I need a job. I have to have a job so that I can pay for my insurance, so that I can follow my little green line to retirement. Have you ever thought about that? Like, many people, it seems like their whole life and their whole work is based around getting to retirement, right? So, and you see those commercials where you follow the green arrow, and the green arrow turns and you follow it, and then you make 8% interest. And then finally, at the end of 40 years, you're retired, and then you don't have to work anymore, right? And then you die because you have nothing to work for anywhere. One of the great killers of people who retire is retirement itself. It seems that if you have something to work for, that you live longer in many instances. Or people who don't find a hobby that they enjoy in their retirement often find less meaning in their lives. But anyway, society creates conditions in which we all think and live, and then we think, okay, well, I have to have a job because I need insurance, because I have to take care of my family. And I do the same thing over and over, and perhaps I have a little bit of fun here and there, but it's always very limited, it's always very controlled. But then at some point in all of our lives, we think, why? What is the point? And this is the moment that Camus says that we kind of have the awakening. Now, you can either follow the awakening and continue with it, or you can jump right back into your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, same routine, same routine. I want to retire, or I need to make money to do these things. And then you kind of get lost in that. Or you can attempt to become free. And in becoming free from that cycle, then you have to create your own meaning. Because before that, your life had meaning in the sense that you had a job, or you have a family, or you are a father, or you are a mother, or you are a son, or a daughter, or a businessman, or a teacher. And it reflects the way that most of us view our lives, that whenever we engage with other people, we say things like, what do you do? And what we mean is like, what is your job? Because we define ourselves by our jobs. We dedicate ourselves to our jobs. We feel stress and pain because of our jobs and things like that. But if you can break free from the everyday, if you can break free from the they self and attempt to begin living with acknowledgement of the fact that society itself is trying to trap you into not thinking about your life and to not maximizing your creative power, then you can begin to live out that creative power. And ultimately what Camus says in that essay is that the most meaningful life is the most living, not the best living. It's the most living, it's the most experiences, it's diversity, it's creativity, it's plunging into every possible possibility that you can. And I think of it as kind of the stupid movie Yes Man with Jim Carrey, right? He's kind of condemned to always say yes, and so he ends up saying yes to lessons in Korean. And the homeless person who has to use his phone, he says yes, and then the guy says, well, can I have your phone? And he's like, yes. And then the guy's like, can I have all the money in your wallet? And he says yes, and he keeps saying yes, 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 yes to everything. That's the ultimately meaningful life for Camus, is the most living, not necessarily the best living. Whereas, as we talked about earlier in the course, for somebody like Aristotle, not only is it having a diversity of experiences, but for Aristotle, the best life is the one that's lived well. So it's not only the most living, but it's the best type of living in relation to those things. And most of us would tend to agree that that having a really good glass of wine is better than having 3 or 4 glasses of not so good wine. But if you can't really tell the difference, then 3 or 4 glasses of wine is better than the one good glass of wine. And that's what Camus is kind of saying. There is no ultimate essence that we can say this is the best wine. And so what you need to do is drink all wines as much as you can. It's to have all of these experiences in life, to be a yes-sayer. So he's kind of following, all of those things kind of follow Nietzsche, saying yes to life, saying yes to experiences, and instead of turning away in fear or regret or pain, we plunge forward into into the new. We create. We attempt to be creators both of our own lives as well as of objects in the world, as well as create in the lives of others to bring about certain outcomes. Now the question is, does it matter what kind of outcomes you bring about in others' lives? I would tend to say yes. And I would argue that Nietzsche felt the same way, that it's not just creating anything, it's creating something more vital. Now that might be considered negative or perhaps illegal by our current standards, but anyway, that's another conversation. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about the meaning of life through the lens of Camus' myth of Sisyphus. And ultimately Camus comes back to the myth and he says, you know, Sisyphus becomes the most interesting and the most free when he is trudging back down the mountain again to push his rock up the hill. He doesn't give up. He doesn't go to the bottom of the mountain and then just sit on the stone for eternity. He keeps attempting to roll his stone. And there's an interesting article. I think it was Thomas Nagel, or maybe Richard Taylor. But maybe Richard Taylor, I think, he attempts to say, well, you know, what would give Sisyphus meaning? So Sisyphus's toil seems to be the ultimate meaningless toil, in the sense that he's not accomplishing anything. And Taylor says, well, there's two ways that Sisyphus's toil would have meaning. One would be if Sisyphus is building something like a temple at the top of the mountain. So every rock that he rolls up, he begins to construct this temple, and then he continues to roll stones, and then in the end he's created something, and then that would give all of his toil meaning. The other way that Sisyphus could have meaning would be if he had an inherent desire in his body and in his mind to roll rocks. So if Sisyphus loved rolling rocks, then every time that he was rolling that stone up the hill, he would be experiencing pleasure and joy in the activity, or perhaps not even pleasure or joy, but meaning in that activity. And ultimately, Taylor says, because of the fact that human creations, like the pyramids and pieces of art, ultimately because they will all deteriorate and fade into nothing, then that can't be the ultimate thing that gives human life meaning. So it's not the things that we create that give our lives meaning. Instead, Taylor says, humans have a natural, inherent desire to roll stones. They have a natural desire to participate in life and to work at life, and even in the face of great obstacles, and to engage in repetitive, seemingly from an outside perspective, meaningless activity. But because of their inherent desire to roll stones, to live life, to do those repetitive activities, their lives take on meaning. Well, anyway, that's a little bit about meaning. I'm going to make another video that explains how to approach your final argumentative paper. But I hope that you continue to think about the meaning of life and to engage philosophical literature and discourse as you move forward in your careers here. So let's have a good week.